Hi, and welcome to the Paladin December 2019 update. I'm just going to give you a quick tour of the new version that's just been released to HaikuDepot. Was a crash in Haiku, not in my application, I hasten to add. So this is the new start window. As you can see, I've moved a button over to the right here. This is just to make it more obvious how to open a project. Before, this button was hidden way over to the left. So I could open an existing project. But what I want to do is show you the new templates that are built in. So here we can see the default template, but now there's a whole bunch more samples in addition to the kind of GUI and empty templates here. So there's also a Wibble one, and that's a custom user-defined template, which I'll talk about in a bit. So first of all, what we're going to do is going to open Haiku Fortune, call this My Fortune, and just create this for you. As you can see, the app's there, so I can build it with Alt-M. Goes away and builds it. As you saw down the left here, the status bar is now immediately updating and is always clear to read. Before, sometimes messages would appear over the top of each other and be hard to read. Now that's been fixed in this version as well. I can run this application by doing Alt-R. As you can see, we now got a new fortune here. Which is great. So that app works brilliantly. As I mentioned, custom templates are supported. So if you want to add your own templates for your own workflow, what you can do is put them in your user directory. So here we see boot home config settings, and then if you create a Paladin and templates folder with that exact capitalization, you can create subfolders, and within those subfolders you can put your template files. Now the template info file really just has the application type, but what you can do is if you look at the samples under Paladin by default, got something more complicated, you can create a Paladin PLD project file and just link from that from the template info, and it will just use all those build settings in your template as well. That's a great way of creating your own custom templates. Also, if you want to package up a set of templates to share them, you can now create a H package, and you can target the system develop Paladin templates folder as well. So there's no need to bundle them with Paladin. You can create your own H package, put them on HaikuDepot, and Paladin will automatically find them when it launches, which is a great new feature. What I want to do as well is show you some extra things that I've added to the UI. So I'll just open an existing application here. So this is my output test project. If I do Shift-Alt-R, so run logged, we see that we get this new window called monitor. Now build doesn't do anything at the moment, that's for future use. I'm going to merge the build window into this. If you click on standard out and standard error, you see that the application has ran and has outputted info to standard out and standard error. And if I click on this and do Shift-Alt-R again and run it a second time, you see you get the output again. And if you were to look into this code, you see that there's actually a whole mix of where the standard out and standard error lines are getting outputted, just to make sure that they're not overlapping in the capture there. So that feature is very, very handy when you're testing things that are command line tools. Now before, you used to have this feature, but it would only really show you the output from standard out, and it would only show you it after the application had ended, which isn't particularly useful if you're live monitoring this thing. There's a whole new subsystem here that I've had to build around monitoring standard output and standard error, and that's come really from a project that was already in Haiku. I'll talk about in a moment. The error messages when you open Paladin and other projects have now been minimized. There's still this one hanging around, but now it will automatically convert your project from 32-bit to 64-bit and not warn you about it. It'll just go ahead and use the right libraries without telling you what it's doing. That should make your workflow a whole load easier. As I mentioned, the monitor window is one of these new preview features. So a preview feature is really something that I've built, but might be more useful to the wider Haiku community. So these are effectively code that I'm testing out in Paladin, but may end up going into Haiku operating system itself. So monitor window is a classic example of that. So this is the monitor window. It's generically useful. It's used in this app, but you can use it amongst other apps. That uses a view, which I've called streaming text view, which basically enables you to send B messages and pass them into streaming text view as text for one of many different target tabs. It's not just standard out and standard error. Each one of these tabs is a streaming text view, and the monitor window will pass the right output from one of the commands into each text view. And you can actually mix and match those as well, so you can merge them as well. And the way I've done that is with this command thread class. This command thread class is based on Expander. So within the Haiku operating system, there's the Expander tool, and this had the ability to run commands on the command line. Sometimes Expander would fail. I've actually found a bug in that and fixed it. So the command thread and generic thread have been lifted from Expander and improved and debugged quite significantly. So potentially they're going to go back into the main operating system so that everybody can easily run any command line tool. In my case, in Paladin, it's things like G++ for compiling, but also things like Git for doing source control management as well. But you can use them within your own apps. You can go and grab them now if needs be. Shut this down. Also, a new feature that I've added is Quick Find. So if you do Alt F now, you get this nice pop-up window, and if I click off of somewhere, it disappears, and if I hit escape, it will disappear. But if I start typing a file name like debug, D-E-B, with capitalization specified, you can see that it automatically looks within my project folder, and only within my project folder, for files related to that. And if I scroll down, what I can do is I can hit enter, and it will open it up with my preferred editor on my system, which for me is Coda, and you can see that's a really handy way, and the window disappears once you've executed it as well. So it's a really handy way to find and open files. There's actually an even cooler feature of this. If you do Alt F, if I type in QFW, which are the first three letters that are capitalized in Quick Find window, you see that it highlights the files with those as capitals. So that's a really quick way if you're looking for a particular file to go and access it and open it up. So that's a really useful feature. And that's brand new. It was a feature that was requested on GitHub. I added that within a couple of days. It's a pretty cool feature, but I'm looking to extend it. So if you've got any feedback on how to use that, that'd be great. So one example is, do you want it to include the ability to do a free text search throughout a file? Do you want it to default to C++ files such as CPP and H only, and get rid of all the O's and temporary files as well? If you can give me feedback on that, I'd really welcome it. Please give me feedback on the GitHub issue site. Please, though, don't ask for it to jump search for things like function names yet, because of function declarations or function definitions, because that requires a new feature called language server, which I'll talk about in a little while. Some other fixes as well, although you can't see it on this one, this window will now respect system colors. So if you've got a custom setup in Haiku, maybe you've got a black background with green text, then it will follow that. So this is kind of document background. This is kind of list item and selected list item backgrounds. The same here as well. So they will now respect system colors. Is great for usability, because it means you don't get blinded when you use Paladin now, which is quite useful. I personally never had a problem with that, but other people asked for it, so I quickly added that feature. Something else that the project now also does is, if we open up this project folder, for example, you see that a compile commands JSON file is now executed every time a build happens. This file is used by third-party tools, so it might be used by CMake or some of the CLang tools. It basically lists the exact commands required to build a project, because in C there's not really any concept of, this file is this place in the hierarchy. You only really know it once you build the project. So that'll be useful for the future language server capabilities that we're looking at building. But it's also useful now if you want to use CMake with your projects that are generated by Paladin. You can then go ahead and use that file. Paladin will build that. Best to do a full rebuild when you generate that file, otherwise it will just include the 1 or 2 files that have changed in the most recent build. Something else that's changed as well is if you create and delete source groups, sometimes it wouldn't create one, it'd edit an existing one, it'd mess up the names, you won't be able to drag things in between items. That now all works logically, including deletion, so you can right click and you can now delete a group, whereas before you couldn't delete a group. Whereas now you actually can. I've accidentally deleted one there. Get the idea. So yeah. Futures, there are some future changes I want to make to this. So language server I mentioned a few times. This will basically enable you to quick search for functions and class names, both declarations and definitions, and automatically open the files up. That's fairly useful for quick find window in Paladin, but it's more useful in editors like Coda and LPE. But the problem is with editors, they don't have a concept of a project, and the language server requires this concept of a project. So really you need to use Paladin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to embed a language server in Paladin, and then when you open a text file from Paladin, a source code file in an editor, it will pass along the link to the URL that editor then can then go and talk to that language server, which can enable those editors to do things like search for function and class and struct and enum declarations and definitions, which will be really, really useful. And it's the most often asked for feature, but it requires an awful lot of work. So there's quite a lot going on in the background. Please be patient for that one. It is not a couple of weeks fix. That's more like a couple of months working on that. What I'm also going to do as well is work on kind of built-in help. So everywhere where you see settings, so for example here, I want a help icon that describes this exact area. Now at the moment there is a kind of one help file. There's like one HTML file that comes with Paladin, but it's not particularly useful because it's just got everything listed in it. So what I'm going to do is embed help and give you hints in different areas. In order to do that effectively, really you need kind of a rich HTML viewer. So I've got a third-party lightweight HTML viewer called Light HTML. It's really, really quick, really lightweight. It's not designed for full-on websites, so don't get excited, but it is good for embedding quick HTML views within applications. So that's currently a feature that's going to end up in preview here and may end up in the core operating system if people find it useful. I've also started doing full integration testing. So I've just bought a new computer rig that I'm going to embed all this into. So I'm going to do a full tests on beta 1 builds, but also the latest nightlies for every single change that gets pushed into the develop branch of Paladin. And that way we shouldn't have any regressions like the recent horrific issues we had trying to get a build out of Paladin. It's jumped from 2.0 to 2.7 purely because I had issues getting the builds working. So that's going to be a big time saver for me, and hopefully enable me to get features out even quicker. But now, really, C++ development in Haiku is getting easier and much quicker thanks to Paladin and all the recent changes. I've had lots of positive feedback. The more feedback, the better, really, because if it's, it's broken and I haven't spotted it, then you need to tell me about it. And with more and more people trying Paladin, once they give feedback, I've created a new prioritized issues channel in GitHub. So you'll basically be able to request a feature, and it's currently averaging kind of 2 weeks between that feedback coming back and me asking for clarifications and the bugs being fixed. So if you can get that feature request in and it's not too insane, then I can quickly embed that in. Well, that's the end of the introduction to Paladin. I hope you enjoy looking at the new version. Thanks for your time.